Hello there. Yes, we are Geeks Assembled, and we have assembled here once again. And we're going back 50 years. Yes, 50 years for Patrick Troughton's very first Doctor Who story. Yes, his post-regeneration. And we've got a group of lovely people here who are also Doctor Who fans, so that's great. And let's first off start with Connor. What does Connor have to say about Power of the Daleks?
Thank you. Power of the Daleks is a great story. It was, when the animation was announced, it was one of the stories that I never really read up about. I knew nothing about it. I hadn't listened to any of the audios. I hadn't read any of the books. It was very much an in-the-dark sort of story for me. And I went into it totally not even researching it after the animation was announced, because I just wanted to be totally surprised. And I really was. I'm so happy that this has been animated for us to watch 50 years later. The story is so good. It starts off really strangely for a regeneration, because you've sort of got the moment when Patrick Troughton, the recently revealed Patrick Troughton, puts his hood up and he's sort of sat in sort of like silence for a few minutes. And it goes all fuzzy and strange, and it's just really sort of bizarre imagery, especially in animation, because it's obviously must be a lot more difficult to get moments like that more perfect than if it was just normal filming. And I think the animation really sort of did that scene justice. Then you've got him sort of gradually developing into the Patrick Troughton we came to know and love. He's sort of a bit of a clown. When he's one of my favourite scenes is where he's measuring the rock and he jumps over it. It just in a very bizarre moment. And then of course he witnesses someone being shot dead. So it instantly, his era starts off on a pretty solid and dark note. And then obviously as the story progresses, you get to know characters like Bragan and Hensel. And then later on the Daleks return. The Daleks are really sinister in this. I don't know whether it's the audio, but their voices sound a lot more terrifying. Like even when they're saying exterminate, you know, it's just a lot more terrifying than we used to. So it really adds to it.
Let's go over to, because I think Connor's just a little bit busy. Let's go over to Beef Dad. Go ahead, Beef Dad.
Well, having waited so long, I freely confess that I was bitterly disappointed in the animation. Considering all the technology that they have at their fingertips these days, to do something that really looked like Captain Pugwash, for me, was just such a dreadful disappointment. As you know, I saw the original serial on television. And yes, they did a couple of moments quite well, but the actual animation itself was like something out of the 1960s stroke 70s children's cartoon animation of Captain Pugwash, where everybody moved sideways most of the time. I don't know if the legs moved and people moved in like an Egyptian, should we say. I mean, the performances, vocally, you cannot criticize them. They were brilliant. Bernard Archer playing Bragan was brilliant. I remember him in the original series, and he was very, very sinister in that original series. An awful lot of the things that you don't get in this are expressions, facial expressions. and he was incredibly sinister. Pamela Ann Davy playing Janley. I mean, everybody hated that woman. But the thing is, you just didn't get that amount of feeling for the cartoon character because of the way it was done. I mean, her face barely moved. Similarly, I feel a little sorry for Annika Wills, who played Polly, because they had her with this awful pout all the time, and she was a lot more animated in the television serial, a lot more animated. She has wonderfully bright eyes, and you didn't see any of that really. Michael Cray's playing Ben. He was the one who was basically saying everything that people were saying about the new Doctor. A lot of people just did not believe in the new Doctor. Is this the new Doctor? Is he really the Doctor? Or is he something totally different? And Ben Jackson really put that across brilliantly, and you can hear it in the vocals. It really is good. The Daleks, well, they made them look like pepper pots, I think. That is my way of feeling. My thing. The Daleks in the actual serial, kind of said the vocalization of the Daleks was sinister, but the actual visuals of the Daleks was extremely sinister. It was really, really scary, and you didn't really get that. You did not really get that. And of course, the when the Daleks killed someone, you didn't get the skeleton, which was a bit of a shame. So yeah, are we doing the scores now?
Yeah, you can score it now. Yep, if you want.
It gets a 5 out of 10 for me.
A 5 out of 10. Thank you, Beef Dad.
A disappointed 5 out of 10.
And now let's go back to Connor for the rest of his review.
Thank you. Yeah, so as I was saying, the vocalization of the Daleks was some of the best that I've heard in Doctor Who, because it really was sinister. I do have to agree with Beef Dad on some of the animation. It was, with the facial expressions in particular, it didn't really do some of the performances a whole lot of justice. Nonetheless, I do think it is some of the best animation of the BBC DVD range, compared to things like The Invasion, which is an animation that not a whole lot of people appreciate. I think this is a far superior sort of animation. Story-wise, as I said, 6 parts. Usually in Doctor Who, when it's 6 parts, you get a part that might just drag a bit, and it's just sort of like a bit of filler. But in this, I felt like I was really... I don't know whether it's because I was hooked by the story and I was intrigued to see what the story was about, because it was 50 years since this is a whole new experience where we're actually going back and watching a new story rather than waiting for a new series or something. So I don't know whether it was that, but I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of filler. So it sort of made it far more enjoyable. The characterizations, the whole sinister characters and all that were perfectly done. But as I said, the animation, and as Beef Dad said as well, it didn't really awfully do the performances a lot of justice. I think overall, story-wise, I'll give this an 8 out of 10, and animation-wise, I'll give it a 7 out of 10, I think.
Thank you, Connor. Now let's go over to Texas Tim. Go ahead.
Well, I have to say, I kind of foolishly ignored this story for years because it wasn't available to see in anything but maybe telesnaps or as an audio version. Finally, I listened to it, though, about 3 years ago and enjoyed it very much. I knew it was a highly rated Doctor Who story over the years. Most of your reviewers over the years have praised it as being very good. This is the first Dalek story, I believe. It isn't written by Terry Nation, but by David Whitaker, the former script editor. And he has a lot to juggle on this one. He has a brand new doctor. He has each of the companions taking a vacation for one episode. He's got to write an interesting story about the Daleks, who by this time may have been overused, I guess, to a certain extent. They just previous year done a 12-part epic. So this is very good. The story is very good. It's amazing, an amazingly brilliant idea to when you're recasting the lead actor for the first time, to not go with somebody that's just the same. That's why we're here talking about it 50 years later. If they'd gone with a Hartnell clone or somebody who was very similar to him and had the same mannerisms, it wouldn't have lasted very much longer. What they did was they groundbreakingly went with somebody totally different, a whole different character to take over the lead part. And that was an amazing decision. Because to be fair, behind the scenes, the show had been kind of struggling with different producers, different writers and stuff ever since Very Lambert left over a year before. Because the producer that replaced her didn't care much for the job. It was his idea, and he didn't get along with Hartnell at all. He wanted to replace him. And that's where the idea originally came from. But eventually you get to this story. They've made that decision. They've gone with a new guy. And it's fun to watch. It's interesting. It's a very good story. It holds up on its own. You don't really think of it as a regeneration story. It's just a brand new Doctor Who. And it's as far as the animation goes, I'm always happy with the animation because I just assumed if it was a visual presentation originally, I just assumed watch a visual presentation. Then telesnaps put me to sleep. I don't mind listening to the audio version with narration. I think those are really good and very well done. And they do have those for all the missing stories. But I think animation is the way to go. And it may be disappointing, but it's not that bad. It does remind you of 60s and 70s cartoons, but it's nothing bad, I don't think. I found it very enjoyable to watch this. So I'm going to give the story itself a 10 out of 10 because it's a very good story. It introduces a brand new doctor. It tells a story with Daleks, but it doesn't really make them the main villain, does it? There's a whole lot of human villainy going on. It's very cleverly written as well. Whitaker's a very good writer. He's very good at plotting. Like Connor pointed out, there's no drag in this. It doesn't really drag anywhere as a six-parter. And as far as the presentation with the animation, I will give that a 8. I think it's all right. It does the job.
Thank you, Texas Tim. Now, Susan's had a costume change, so let's go to Susan. What does she think about Power of the Daleks?
Well, I was experimenting on my little friends over there for a little bit, and they're coming out rather interesting. I believe that they will they'll solve all of our problems. They'll be really good servants. I like the whole idea that they want to serve us, and they can't be anything more than great assets to our company and to our whole program. And I don't understand these rebels who want to turn and face us and defy us, defy our experimentation, defy our pressing forward into figuring out what these things can do for us. And these things have promised that they are benign and that they'll work. So Lesterson was incredibly well written. He was a mad scientist in the classic sense. Love that. Freaking love that. That's why I had to change costume. I remembered that that Lesterson was really, really the most, amazing, evil, mad scientist ever. I mean, these guys are not to be believed at all. Very dangerous, very, very dangerous, and very, very not benign. They may have looked like pepper pots, but they're super destructive pepper pots. And there were so many of them by the end. Holy smokes. And I saw it on the big screen with my friend, and freaked me out. I mean, I've seen lots of Dalek. I've seen all of the Dalek stories, and this one freaked me out. I was like, "Holy crap!" I know what they mean when they say hide behind the sofa. These guys are not to be messed with anyway. So fun to see it in animation form. They wouldn't have been able to do the big screen presentation with telesnaps. That would have been a waste of time. But with this animation, it was a bit, old school. I mean, but the show was old school. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give the whole thing a benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say stories 10 out of 10 and animations 10 out of 10.
Oh, 10s all round from Susan. Thank you, Susan. What does Jason think? Go ahead, Jason.
First time I listened to this was just the audio version, which was definitely a brilliant story in my opinion. Definitely really enjoyed it. But you also got to understand with the whole animation, it takes people a long, long time to even work on animation stuff. Because especially with me, that done some like nearly as this, like in 2007, it took me 2 weeks just to do 3 minutes of an animation. It takes a lot to do something like that, and maybe people use different programs at the time, like from now, but just something like this was definitely entertaining. Definitely really enjoyed it, even though it may seem like it was different from 50 years ago, which I would like to see what it was like 50 years ago. I mean, if someone ever found the actual videos, which some of us could still hope, but the animation, in my opinion, was still pretty good in this one. The couple of enemies, you got the Daleks and you got Bragan, who wants control over the Daleks and all that, and apparently got them to kill the governor. It was definitely just interesting. One of the 3D animators I was familiar with, Rob Ritchie, he has his own YouTube channel. He's got like other 3D stuff, like other Dalek 3D stuff. I think he's like pretty much behind the 3D version of the Daleks in this animation. But yeah, the characters are definitely interesting. The head of the security, Bragan, the actor, also played in later on Pyramid of Mars as the Market's Scaleman and all four. Scarman on all 4 episodes. Also, the guy who played the governor, the actor of it, played another one in the Claws of Axos as Chin. So there's done a few research on that one. But yeah, it was definitely interesting, especially the doctor, how he's didn't remember Polly and Ben, and the doctor just messing around and playing with his little flute. Just some entertainment between there. Great story in my opinion. I'll give the story itself a 10 out of 10. The animation, a 10 out of 10, because you know what? It takes them a lot of hard work on the animation stuff.
10s all round for Jason too. Now, let's go over to Hull. Let's go over to Lee. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, Daleks. On the planet Vulcan, and no sign of Mr. Spock either. what shall we say? The animation. Let's start with that, shall we? I've got the booklet that came with the DVD, and it tells you about the animation. It was only commissioned in February of this year, 2016. It was finally completed on the 31st of October, 2016. So, and it's the first episode was made available on the BBC store on the 5th of November. So, it's only a short amount of time from February to October to get these 6 parts done. I think that's a big thumbs up to the team behind all this. And I don't care what the animation for me works. What Eddie it works. The invasion works. All the others what they've done have worked for me, and it works in this one as well. You've got to realise they haven't got a lot of money to put into these things, and what we get back, you've got to be thankful that we can see it now, and I'm happy with that. Because if they didn't animate it as Texas, you get the telesnaps, and for me, telesnaps is a waste of time. It just doesn't do it for me. So to the story, I differ here because I thought it did drag for the first couple of episodes. Slow going for the first couple of episodes, but then it picked up third episode and it was all the way then. Great performances from Patrick Troughton. You can understand why people love his Doctor so much. From the beginning of that, he was the Doctor from the beginning. He's buffooning around and pretending he was the Fool while he wasn't really, and I love all that. But my favourite bit is Lesterson's journey into madness, because he slowly, it goes insane by the end of this. He's got a loopy by the end. I just love that. As for the Daleks, yeah, I agree. The 60s Daleks are the far superior Daleks. Voice-wise, menacing-wise, you can't fault them. I said that about the Daleks, you can't fault them. Me saying that about Daleks. It's a miracle. All in all, damn good story. Yeah, brilliant actors in it. Bernard Archer, as been mentioned, brilliant. I can understand what Beef Dad said about the expressions. Okay, it's animation. You can't get every expression across in animation. I understand that. Yeah. But for me, it's a very good start to, as they call it, the monster era of Doctor Who, the Troughton era. So for that, I'm going to give this an 8.5 in total. It stands up now, and it's 50 years old. It's a pretty good story for a Dalek story.
For a Dalek story, yeah. You don't want to go too far, do you, Lee? You don't want to get too carried away. You have a reputation to keep up. You're slipping. People are going to think you're really a secret Dalek lover. And you've got several figures of them.
It's the medication and drink what does it,
Yeah, true. Well, anyway, to my review, and I'm like Connor. I never knew anything about this story going into it. I'd never heard it on audio or seen the telesnaps. So it was absolutely, completely brand new to me. Obviously, I knew it was Patrick Troughton's first episode. I obviously knew that, and it had the Daleks in, obviously, Power of the Daleks. It would be odd if it had, it wouldn't have Slitheen, but if it had another monster in there. But I thought it was very good, and I don't think it dragged at all. And maybe it didn't drag because it was all brand new to me, and I had no idea what was going to happen. I have to say, Patrick Troughton is absolutely amazing. I kind of forget Patrick Troughton because so many of his episodes are lost, and I'm a big John Pertwee fan, and people focus more on Tom Baker, and Patrick Troughton gets kind of forgotten. I feel like not by everybody, but by certain people. Patrick Troughton gets forgotten, but Patrick Troughton is definitely shot up in my box. He's definitely amazing. He's the Doctor from the very first moment. He just steals the whole thing. He's absolutely brilliant. And, you know, you got to remember, if this could have gone awful, and Patrick Troughton could have been, a disaster, really, couldn't he? You know, changing the lead actor. You know, it could have all gone wrong, but he did it so well. He did it so well. And I think it's good that they've put him with the Daleks in the first story, because obviously they're the most popular villain then and now. You know, so it's good to have him with the Daleks, and the Daleks are good in this. Like people say, they're a threat. They do feel like a threat. You know, and it reminds me of, you know, when you got the one serving, it reminds me of Victory of the Daleks. And there's a bit of Dalek in there as well. There's different elements of different episodes in there. The animation, I think, is great. Like Jason says, animation is very hard to do. I did a film and media course where I had to do animation, and it's very difficult and it takes a long time. You know, and like Lee says, they don't have all the money in the world. They're not Disney. You're not going to see Frozen-styled animation with the BBC. You know, you're just not. But I think the animation is very good. I think the animation actually suits it. Now, I watched it in black and white, thanks to Connor, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to watch it. So thank you, Connor. And it's great. I think the animation is really good. I like the Daleks are like 3D, aren't they, compared to the rest of it? And you have these 3D sections, you know, where it will just come out into 3D sort of thing. You have these 3D, you know, where the Daleks are being put into the, the squids, the Daleks being put into the casing, and it goes into 3D. And I think the animation is very, very good. Yeah. So I'm going to give the story a 10. I thought it's brilliant. And I'm going to give the animation a 10. I think it's really good animation. So I'm going to throw the floor open to everyone to speak.
One thing I wanted to mention, actually, that I didn't mention in my initial review, is that I received these on Monday. The first 1,000 buyers on BBC Store all received them. And actually, one thing that it says about this animation and the DVD in general is how much effort was put into it. Because, of course, these are brilliantly printed. Like, they're not just flimsy. You know, you've got all the print on the back and all that sort of stuff. It looks like genuine sort of memorabilia. But on the DVD itself, you've got the documentary about how it was made. You didn't get that on Web of Fear or Enemy of the World. But you get it on here, and it's old interviews, but it's just great to get an insight into how this story was made, even though most of the people involved in that documentary and in the story are dead now. It's a great sort of touch to the DVD. And I think it really does sort of set a precedent for the future, because I think, as Tim said, animation is the way to go. And I think, judging by how well they've done on this one, if they animated all of the lost episodes from here on in any random order, or if they're going to go through a specific order as they were released in chronologically as they aired for the first time, I think you're going to get a lot more people into Doctor Who. And
that's something they should have done before they let the DVD range dwindle down to nothing. I mean, they could have been.
Yeah, I agree.
They started animating in 2006, and they did like partial bits for stories that had a couple of missing. But then, like you pointed out, the DVD range, you had DVDs coming out with no extras. It was like, really? Are you that cheap? You can't throw, Fraser and Debbie in a room and have them record a commentary for that? Come on.
Yeah. So I think, judging by the quality of the animation, I think then we can sort of stop the talk about looking for all the episodes, because I think the animation would be enough to satisfy any Whovians sort of need.
Is animation cheaper and easier now? Is that why they're doing it now? Because it's more readily available. I mean, you can download free animation software on your laptop right now.
Yeah, I think it's cheaper and easier because I think there was an awful lot of talk when things like The Invasion and all that sort of stuff came out in the late noughties, where they were talking about they just don't have the budget for it. And I'm wondering if BBC...
For that, they used Cosgrove Hall, which was a very prominent company that did animations at that time. I think they've since folded, but at the time, that was a big company that did the first animations for Doctor Who. They also did the one with the 10th Doctor and Martha.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there was an awful lot of talk about budget. But I think with BBC Star coming around, I think it's really sort of maybe motivated them and given them a reason to bring these stories out. I think it's going to...
There is some more money because of the connection with BBC America.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that cable network has some extra revenue because of advertising dollars and because of already existing material. They're not actually... So until they started like producing these things or co-producing these things, they were actually generating the revenue for BBC worldwide. So anyway,
yeah, I think if BBC America started to contribute an awful lot more to Doctor Who, because they have started to do actually, because the part invested into Class, and that's how Class came about, is between BBC Worldwide and BBC America. And if they started to do that with the animations, then we're going to have them all, I think, in a number of years. So, yeah, I'm really happy that this could be the start of...
And wasn't this team already on board because of Dad's Army or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. Dad's Army.
Yeah, I'd heard that it was part of that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, carry on.
I just heard that it was part of Dad's Armies, revisiting Dad's Army, so that they took the same team.
There was a missing episode that was animated for Dad's Army. That was it might have been the same team. I'm not sure, but I know that was in the news a year or so ago about the recovery of or not the recovery, but the animation of Dad's Army. And at that time, everybody was saying, "Hey, why not more Doctor Who?" So maybe this is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't want everybody to get the wrong impression from what I said. I didn't like the animation in this. The story is absolutely brilliant, and obviously that is a 10 out of 10. But my problem is that I compare it with the original.
I know.
And I am the only one here who's old enough to have seen the original episode. Like I was a little bit disappointed in the regeneration. It was very simple and very basic, the regenerations then. It was the first time it had ever been done. The only way they could do it was by sort of a basic morph. Sort of going in and out of focus. Yeah, it would be good to see them animate some more. Perhaps with practice, they can improve. But you know, I know Shrek is Disney and that sort of thing. Yeah, but considering how brilliant some of the animation is these days, a lot of it is done on the computer. I hoped for more.
To be fair, this was on a computer, though, and you could compare it, if you wanted to go with a more modern style of animation, we had that with the second Tennant animated story, which a lot of people complained looked too video game. So, yeah. I mean, I don't remember the name of it. I think Lee might be able to help me with that. But which one?
Dreamtime or...
Dreamland.
It's a good story, but the animation was a bit too computer game, I think.
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps that works better for me. But, I mean, the Cosgrove Hall variety which actually started with Captain Pugwash, and they still haven't moved on really from that kind
It's a style, though, isn't it? It's more of a style.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is it's an awfully dated, awfully jerky style, which gives you very little in the way of facial expression.
I'm just glad we got it. I'm just glad that we've got Power of the Daleks on our DVD shelves, you know, when you can go and buy it in a store.
I must admit that it was pinging my memory all the way through, and I was thinking, yeah, I remember that bit, and I remember the expression on his face was a lot creepier. Yeah, and the bit where, well, the descent into madness of Lesterson was absolutely incredible to watch on the television at the time. And yeah, nothing's been said about Quinn. He was the deputy governor who got basically kicked out, lied about, and he would have ended up as governor of the colony after they defeated the Daleks. His performance was absolutely superb, but then what do you expect of the grandson of Charles Hawtrey? He was actually the grandson of Charles Hawtrey, who did all the Carry On films.
Wow.
But yeah, as I say, it was just... Yeah, it's sort of frustrating for me. It's very difficult to explain to somebody who didn't see the original serial when it was aired.
But I think
just let everybody alive now, yeah.
I think the problem is, Beef Dad, is you got to remember is they obviously get an allocated budget, and they obviously get a time that they've got to do it by, haven't they, Lee? You know, like when did you say it was? It was only
commissioned in February of this year.
That is such a quick time to do an animation.
Yep.
Well, of 6 episodes, yes, it is.
Exactly. So, you know, you got to take that in mind for what they did in that short period of time. It's absolutely brilliant. If they were given longer and given more money, maybe they would have done facial expressions and more things like that. But
I mean, what I would like to see them do is, you know, that they can take stars and put them into things that
mapping and stuff.
Yeah, that they weren't in, and they can animate actual physical.
A complaint about the Reign of Terror. They animated 2 missing episodes for that one. But the complaint at that time was that it looked too realistic. It didn't match the quality of the 4 other episodes in other words, it was a better animation style. It was a different animation style than what you had previously. But they said it didn't suit the style of the program.
Well, I mean, this is going to be the thing with animation. You're never going to please everybody.
Well, Doctor Who in general, yes, you're never going to please everybody.
I think Big Finish did the animation for the Terror.
Which?
I think so. So they had something to do with it.
Okay, yeah. They also had a little short with Bernice Summerfield that they did a few years ago, a 10-minute animated episode. But that was a little bit more of the more modern day kind of thing, like they did with Dreamland.
Yeah, but me personally though, when I was watching it, I forgot I was watching animation. It was for me.
Yes.
I totally forgot it was animation. I was just watching the 6 episodes, and I thought, by the end of it, I thought, yeah, it's an enjoyable thing. And the animation, I just got drew into it. Totally forgot about animation.
But like Texas says, it's got a style to it, and I quite like that style. I quite like that style of animation. If it was in 3D like Dreamland, it would be more expensive, I think, because 3D tends to be more expensive. But I don't think it would really look any better. I really don't. I prefer it in the style that it is.
I think the thing about this animation style is that it reflects the era of Doctor Who, because even in that era, the sets were more simplistic. Everything was cardboard. Everything was famously, as it's been said, every set was shaking or whatever because there was no proper sort of structure like there is today, where you can spend all of these millions of dollars or whatever making these sets. And it just sort of fit the simplistic sort of style of 60s and 70s and even 80s Doctor Who. So I don't see a problem with the animation style, apart from the facial expressions. I shared that with Beef Dad, but apart from that, yeah, I think it's a good reflection on Doctor Who at the time.
I have a question though. Since this has come out as an animation, does this mean, now it might not do, I'm just asking the question, does this mean that there are no more missing episodes that the BBC has? The BBC has.
You never know. You never know.
You can never tell what's going to be found in the future with like that Avengers episode.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, like at the BBC now, I mean, you know, they're not hiding anything.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they play these things very close to their chest.
Yeah, Omni Rumor. Hordes.
Well, this is what I mean. Destroy the Omni Room and just give us the animations. The Omni Room has been going on for so long. It's getting a bit
I would definitely say that Power of the Daleks doesn't exist.
No, I don't think Power of the Daleks. I don't think they can find that.
That's why you got the go ahead for that, I think.
Well, if in a year's time you see Power of the Daleks fully found on DVD, yeah.
Good thing is,
maybe they just want more money out of you. Yeah.
yeah.
It would be good if they did Marco Polo, but I hope they might improve the.
Yes.
That's one of the ones that's part of the rumor, though. Supposedly that one was found with the other two a few years ago, and that could just be another lie from the Marlboro Man. I don't know. That guy, he's strung everybody along for years now. So
Yeah.
It remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Well, just see what comes along. Just see what comes along. If it turns up, it turns up. If the BBC announce it next week or next year, then hooray. If they don't, they don't.
But this is a proactive move in the right direction, though, because say what you will, it's better to have a visual story than an audio version. I mean, I would say, and I don't think telesnaps they're handy and a squeeze, but I mean.
But Loose Cannon, you got to give Loose Cannon credit, though, Tim. I'm
not taking anything away from them. I'm just saying I would prefer to see it animated than that, because I'd rather just listen to the audio version with narration than, I mean, personally, telesnaps kind of bore me to death. So
yeah, they bore me as well.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Not me, said the flea.
Yeah, it's just that telesnaps jog my memory. But my memory of Marco Polo is just so intense. The other one was the Crusades.
Yeah.
That's mostly been found, hasn't it, as well? So they could easily do that.
No, they have two. They have half of it. That's a candidate for animation. Before 2 Entertain stopped putting out any DVDs a few years back, that would have been a perfect one a perfect candidate. The big surprise here is they said, let's do a whole story. And so, wow, now they've set a precedent. Hopefully they'll follow up on it.
And if they're doing whole stories from now on, the next one that I want is Fury from the Deep, I think.
I want all of them.
I want all of them. In a specific order, yeah, I want Fury next.
I think we'll probably get them once or twice a year, probably. I would say. They couldn't do too. They couldn't do too many a year. It'd just be too much.
Probably 6 to 8 months.
The workload you'd looking at 2 a year.
Yeah, 2 a year at the max.
Get one out in time for Easter and get one out in time for Christmas, and I think
I think a lot would depend on how many episodes the serial had.
Yeah, Marco Polo's got like 10.
Yeah, Marco
Seven.
It's a long one.
It's a good one.
27 episodes.
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I want it in color. Beef Dad, I want that one in color.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have it in colour. I mean, I remember it in black and white.
Yeah.
Because it was showing in black and white.
Yeah, it was shown in black and white. They didn't film them in colour then.
So, does anybody else have anything to add about Power of the Daleks? Was that it? Yep, I think that's your lot. I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Tell us below what you think about Power of the Daleks. Hit that subscribe button. Look after yourself. Take care, and we'll see you next time.